everybody.
Hi,
Good
everybody.
morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning,
Morning.
everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I've been live today a couple of times. Like, what is this? This is the 8:03, which is where I'm from in South Carolina. Although I'm in Florida, I came back home.
Oh, you are back? I thought you were staying in North Carolina till October.
Well, no, Cameron had surgery. Cameron, I got called. You didn't know that? Cameron had emergency surgery, and
You
so
okay?
I flew home.
What
Uh,
happened?
it was his appendix, and so I flew home
That's a
first
big
thing
deal.
Saturday morning. So I've been here for the last few days. Um, yeah, I've been here for the last few days.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
thought last night on the call that
yeah.
was your house in Florida, and I'm like,
Yeah.
anyway, is he okay?
He is. It was, routine, but just uncomfortable for him. But I'm really proud of him. I mean, he called us in North Carolina on Thursday and let us know that he thought that's what it was. So he listened to his body. Yeah, he's okay. Thank goodness for Lindsay. And but I came home. It's funny. It's an interesting topic too. I wrestled with. I was talking to one of the sisterhoods about this. I wrestled with not coming because he's 21 and he's been staying at our house sitting since his school is pretty much just shut down. Everything's on Zoom, so he's been
Yeah.
house sitting for us while we've been gone. And I really wrestled. You tell him from South Carolina. Wrestled with not coming home because I didn't want to baby him, and so that fine line of being there as a mom, because he's not in a relationship right now. And he could take care of himself, but after surgery, and he has a dog. There's a couple things to do, but I really, literally did. I went back and forth. Do I go? Do I not go? And anyway, I came. I came because finally, John, my husband, went. Sandy, you're going. I've already booked your ticket, and it was so great to have someone to go. Like, you're going, and
Yeah.
one of the women in the sisterhood, that's in like the alumni group that was on the call last night. It was very similar to something that happened with her. Her partner was. There were fires out west, and she was vacillating. Do I go? Do I not go? And finally, I'm like, we got to meditate, like, go in your heart here. I'm like, go, you're going.
Yeah.
And she said it felt very similar when I was explaining this, because she said, your sacred masculine, Sandy, as a teacher, was like, just go. And sometimes it feels really good to be commanded and to be told what to do. I mean, it can be hot and sexy AF.
Yeah.
And it's also like really comforting
Yes.
to sometimes someone tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's lessons everywhere,
Even when your man or someone says, if you're not feeling good, they command you to stay in bed. It feels comforting, like they're taking
100%.
care of you. It
Same.
is
It's the same
interesting.
thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. I totally agree. Totally agree. And
So,
go
yeah.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
To that same point, being home with him, and yeah, I put him in our bed because it's closer to the bathroom, it's more comfortable, the TV's in there, he can, it's easier for him to recover there. And he's up and moving now. Today's the first day, but and like my office was taken over with his computer stuff, because he's been here and he didn't expect me to come home. So it wasn't like he was preparing for and like clear everything out. But I came home and I felt like I was a visitor in my own home. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why am I so agitated, like irritated, agitated. And I was, and I wanted to say on the surface, I thought the depth was this, and this is the importance of having people in your life that actually can observe you and call you out in love, because this is what happened to me this morning. So I was sharing with my husband about this awareness, and after our sisterhood call last night, Charity is in my sisterhood, and we had an office hours call last night that was actually a great call. So by
I
the way,
want to talk about that too, because when someone joins your sacred sisterhood, the office hours are available to us forever.
they are, and actually, well, the office hours are available for now, forever. Because what I'm doing, and actually, this is one thing I want to talk about. I'm actually launching the Sacred She Society, which is going to be like anybody. They don't have to be working with me directly like you are, but they can pop on. We're looking at the price point now. I think it's going to be. I think $33 is what we're going to do a month. And so I'm going to have a call like what you experienced last night, which is a lot of depth. Wasn't that fascinating? Without going through
Yeah.
anybody's stuff.
Well, let's tell everybody what office hours are, and
Yeah.
your definition of sacred, I want to get into that too. I mean, I don't want to take away from the story. You want to finish the story you
Yeah,
were
I mean,
sharing what happened this
it's
morning?
really, really interesting. Yeah, I mean, just having sacred relationships and having, a relationship not just with your partner, but like with a friend, with a teacher, whatever it is, where you can, ask the hard questions. But I realized that my displacement was not because of necessarily because I wasn't sleeping in my own bed. I was in the guest bedroom. What I realized when I went deeper is that whole friction I had about coming here and taking care of my son, which may sound so ridiculous to other moms out there. I realized I still had some hooks in me, some charges around men not stepping up when they're sick or something like that. And
Oh,
oh, big time. And
yeah.
it reminded me when I used to work with Cameron's dad, and and I'm even my husband shared with me today that when he recently, in the last couple of years, when he bravely left his amazing job that he had for 28 years or whatever and launched out on his own, that there was a part of him that thought, God forbid I get sick or an accident, like this woman probably isn't going to take care of me. Yeah, I mean, and I can understand why he thought that. And so I've been in this reflection because I'm actually going to have a conversation with Cameron, my son, about this. That I can see that my hook was, if I take care of them too much, am I robbing them of this experience of their manhood, for example, which actually comes from my own fear of growing up and working since I was 12. Like my parents divorcing when I was 12 and me going deep in. And so it doesn't matter how much counseling, therapy, coaching, all the things I know and teaching it. I was like, holy crap. I have not been able to touch that with all the work I've done until this morning when I really sat with it and allowed myself to process it after the call last night, like feeling into it and like what is really going on with me, like what's like the first unit, what are the feelings underneath the initial feeling, because I could have said, oh, it's aggravation because I'm not in my own bed,
Or,
but
and you're not OCD at all. So it doesn't matter if all his stuff's all over the place.
no, right. So
Because
but
I
I'm
don't see you being OCD ever.
right. And I do like things to have their place for sure. But if I wasn't conscious and aware and I was living in all my programming, it's like, well, of course she's upset because she's not sleeping in her bed. It's like Goldilocks. Of course she's upset that somebody's at her desk. Of course she's upset that all of her coffee's gone. Like, oh, Goldilocks, you poor little thing. But it's so much more than that. It's like, whoa, I have some things to unpack around being nurturing to the masculine. And I know one of my teachers talked about this. John talked about that. It is. And Charity, please, I would love for you to opine on this. I love a strong man. And they also have moments where they may have lost their parent or their job, or they might, for God's sakes, have their appendix out. And they need for us to hold space for them. The thing is, for me, and this is the toxic masculine in all of us that doesn't want to be burdened. The toxic masculine in all of us, and me too, is like, I don't want to be burdened with this. For God's sakes, get your ass up. I birthed a baby and breastfed and built a business, and he was born a month early. And you mean you're sick? But
It's
that is the thing. I did this with Cameron's dad. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why we divorced eventually, because I would withhold my love back then. Now that was 21 years ago, and I
yeah,
don't do that now. But you can see how if we don't heal those things and become really aware, that it'll keep coming up. And so the lesson, like we said last night, the lesson's going to keep coming until it's like bing, and that
yeah,
happened this morning. It
yeah.
still doesn't mean that I approve of everything that I see that my son's doing right now. But it's also a matter of so we'll address that, but it's something completely different what I'm speaking of, which is, I owe him an apology. He's like, hey honey, I realized something about myself this morning that this is, I'm really like putting it out there right now, Charity, like super vulnerable. Cam, I realized something about myself, as that, through the years, I'm curious, have you felt that I haven't been nurturing enough, that I was pushing you in areas when you weren't feeling well, or areas where you just knew it wasn't good for you? And of course the answer is going to be yes. Like the fact I went and have acupuncture yesterday, and he's like, I don't want it. And I'm like, but you're complaining about hurting, and I've got something that's going to fix it. Like, why won't you go?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you must not feel that, but I went, fine. You must not be hurting that bad.
Yeah.
Right. I
So,
mean, we all do that.
yeah.
Right.
And I'm laughing not because it's funny, because I can totally relate being a single mom and dad of 2 boys. I never made it nurturing or nice when they were sick, ever. They hardly ever got sick. And part of that was because I couldn't handle them being in pain. It was stressful. I'm not one of those moms that makes it, brings you soup and babies you and all that. I was total opposite. Even when they got lice, oh my God, the stress, I'm like,
Our boys are watching this
I would
going,
just
yeah,
start freaking
yeah,
out.
mom.
But I
Yeah.
spent all these time and all these organizers come in the house and there's garbage in their drawer because you have to wash everything when they have lice and shave their heads, and I'm jerking them around, and it's the busiest time of the years for me, springtime with tennis, golf, and blah blah blah. I just never made it nice, and I feel
Yeah.
that's why I can relate to you, and it's
Yeah. But it's never too late. I mean, we could live in the, oh, I'm sorry's but I'm going to make amends with him. I was going to do it before we hopped on, and then I realized I had 4 minutes, and it would go against, that would be hypocritical for me to go to shove in my apology, making amends right before I hop on with Charity to talk about it. But but it really is right here. And the fact that my husband even said that, a 51-year-old man's like, listen, dude, I mean, I was kind of worried about getting sick because I didn't know, if you're going to leave me out to pasture, because I can see,
poor thing.
but I can see that about myself. And I'm like, I don't love this. And so I'm going to change it. But again, and on the flip side of that, there is something to be said. Oh, I just thought about something, Charity.
Aha, you had an aha moment. Ooh, I
My,
like it.
my, the partner that I went to Tony with, that our relationship broke up there, he was a hypochondriac, and we went to the hospital more. And those 8 months we were together,
Oh,
and then don't, please don't say his name. And those 8 months we
I
were together,
won't. I don't
that
know.
I have in my life, because he would get a headache, we go to the hospital. And remember that people get significance from where they get the most attention. And so,
Mm.
or where they feel the most love. So that's how a comedian all of a sudden can become a comedian. They realize that they make enough people laugh, then they're funny, they're a comedian. Tony Robbins talks about, he realized for the first time when he wanted to really help people, was his mom was pretty abusive to him as a little boy, and his mom was back at the doctor's office, and so he was waiting in the lobby, and it's like the frosted glass, that's pulled back, you sign in. But the door was ajar, and the actual physical door, and it was ajar, and he heard somebody crying. And he like peeked his little 5-year-old head in, and the woman like, come here, and she hugged him, and he realized, and then he made this woman feel better. And from that moment on, and then, oh, what happened is his mom came out, and she's like, Anthony, Tony, I'm probably botching the story a little bit. What are you doing? And this woman said, oh, your son is so amazing. He made me feel so much better. And then his mom, instead of abusing him or putting him down, was like, she saw the gift in him. And it was that moment that Tony's like, I will forever be serving the world. And then a star was born.
Oh,
So the same thing about being sick. And so that my ex-partner got a lot of attention for being sick. And so he would get sick and want me to baby him. But I realized, like we talked about last night on the call, the reason why God brought that person in my life, it was because I was supposed to learn this lesson that I'm learning now 9 years later. And so the lesson's going to keep coming up and coming up until we get it.
yeah,
We talked about last night.
yeah.
And the last night, guys, we're talking about is the sisterhood office hours, where people that have worked with me presently, either one-on-one in groups, they all come together, and some of them know each other or not. And it's like we take questions popcorn style. And we mentioned this last night, that, when things keep coming up. So anyway, I feel really great like talking about this right now. And I'm grateful that I have a husband that I wanted a husband that I could talk to about the deep things, because he helped me see this and process it. And I realized it's not about my bed. It's not about the office. It's really about, am I raising a son that's going to be be able to go out there and take care of his family? And I want to think that I have. And so
You
I'm,
have. He's a
yeah,
great kid. I love when he texts me randomly about something. It
yeah,
it
yeah,
makes my heart skip a beat that he reaches out to me.
yeah,
Like it makes me feel good when any of my friends' children
of
reach
course.
out to me. And
Yeah,
he's so sweet and he's so smart and he's such a go-getter like his mom. You did
Well,
good,
I mean,
Sandy.
he
You
is.
did great. You
He
did
is
great.
that. He is that. And then, but I have to be careful not to, again, put him through my filter. But real quick before we wrap this up, I mean, the thing is, if for the men that are watching, is there is something to be said though about a man who's always needing us to be in our masculine to hold space for them. And that's why it's really important. And we've learned this, John and I have from our teachers, is that, John will say to me, hey, I need 10 minutes just for you to hold space for me. And so then I'm in my masculine space and I can hold space for his feminine, because there's something about our invoking their feminine as well, which is what makes all these beautiful, conscious, awakened men out there, because we want the redwood with this big freaking heart, right? That's what we
Yeah.
want. It allows, strong women like us to be able to surrender into their leadership. And sometimes their leadership is simply, hey, baby, I need to be held right now. And so let them be held. And that could come, John talked about this, that after he would hold events, that he would want his partner just to make him a sandwich and let them just watch movies all day or whatever it was. We talked to Dr. Epstein the other day. We had our interactive with him in his program, and he talked about that after like the fourth day after the event, he just needs to just decompress and chill. And then Jackie, his wife, knows, how to take care of him in that space. So it doesn't make a man weak because they want to be nurtured. It's just a matter, are they always needing to be nurtured? And then it's also our relationship that we shepherd with our own feminine and our own masculine. And clearly I had some work to do around that I think, I'm going to say this, I think I got the lesson. God, I don't need the lesson anymore. I think I got it. I think I got it.
Well, you'll be tested. You
One
might,
time.
you might
Yeah,
be
just coming home and making dinner for Cameron. I mean, I do love cooking and the nurturing part. I think what I realized for me, the fudge ripple effect, that 2 millimeter shift, is really more. It's not about them being sick as much as it is the primal fear about them being able to work, even if they're uncomfortable. It goes back to being broke as a kid, and so you know it's fascinating how our brain is always taking us back to homeostasis. And so that's why I'm always preaching practice, practice, practice your work, the meditations, the breathing, all of it, feminine and masculine, because it's going to rear its ugly head like a whack-a-mole. Yeah, like the call last night.
Yeah, that was fun. I like that part of it. I feel like I could have used that. And it felt good that she was doing it for all of us. It
100%.
like, especially when you have us cheering her on and like, get it, girl. But let's go to that then. So your definition of sacred, because it's the sacred sisterhood, and I like the way you spell sacred.
Yeah, I spell it with a K just to be a little unique. And I'll also tell you why I spell it with a K, because sacred to me is like a devoted love for humanity, a devoted love for the masculine and the feminine, with a little bit of an edge. So the K is for a little bit of an edge. I mean, because we talk about sacred with a C, and this is of course just the Sandy Sembler version, right? For what it's worth. I just know that like my mantra is, and it's up here on my bulletin board, I'm a beacon of light. I'm a beacon of light for a creator, and I share that love in a fun and funky way. Like I know that about myself. Like literally, hold on a second. Like I know this. I literally like it's everywhere around my house. Like this has been on my bulletin board for years, but I share it in a fun and funky way. You know this about me. And so I think that I'm sharing sacred space, the sacred masculine feminine, in a very unique way that's different than other teachers. And it's a way to actually really look at ourselves and see it's not just about putting on the feminine and wearing fun pink earrings and a green top, which by the way, those earrings are hot.
These are from the jungle in Peru.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
The indigenous people make them and they pray over them. They
I
weave
want a
them.
pair of those. Ooh. I was supposed to go to Peru with Lisa Coach, and then of course COVID happened in March, but we're going back in February. Oh my gosh, I love those. But it really is about like what is the sacred moment to moment to moment, and how can we add more of our own genius that God gave us, our light, and spread it out there to the world, not just in service but in contribution. And so that's how I define it for myself and for the people that are working with me.
I love that. Okay, now your definition of sisterhood.
Mm, mm. Sisterhood to me and for me is a group of women. It could just be a group of women of two, when two people come together, that come together for the solidarity of humanity, for themselves, that they're able to, you know, invoke love in the other person, from the other person, be mirrors for each other, share, you know, what they really loved about what just happened and what they would need more of for them to be more in the world. I can tell you more what sisterhood is not too. Sisterhood to me is not getting around and bashing other women or other men, and just complaining about what's going on in the world. It's more about, you know, not just talking about also what we can do to be better partners or friends or mothers or citizens. It's really also feeling the feelings. I mean, that's what it means to me, is to allow ourselves to feel it all and then process it. And then there's more room to love. Like the woman last night who did that, you know, the anger practice, you know, after she came back to the screen, after she moved that anger through her, she showed up and, you know, all the women, y'all were all cheering her on. She showed up and her face looked 10 years younger. Her heart was just so open, and there's more of her to love. So to me, sisterhood is really about coming together for what's better for the world. Is the world better because we're together? And a lot of times it's by pointing out the thing, the blind spot, and it's someone else, and us taking the vow that we know that they see God in us, and we trust that. Because just because we're women doesn't mean that you're my sister, in my definition. And I think it's misused away. Like, well, you're my sister. We all should be in the collective loving each other and holding each other in high regard and all this. But let's face it, many women aren't. And so I think there's something to be said about holding space, a container, a safe place with the women in your life, especially. So you and I have our container that we've had for a decade. I have new friends that I've known just for a short amount of time, but because I run them through this filter, and I also appreciate my intuitive nature. And then I also ask God, help show me how to love myself and this person unconditionally and reveal their true nature. If this is not a person that should be in my sisterhood, you know, reveal it, kill it, destroy it, and make it not be. It's for their best and highest good and my best and highest good with grace and ease. So I use all of that to determine who comes through those doors that you're involved in. But your definition of sisterhood may be different. So what is
Yeah,
your?
that's why I ask, because just so everybody understands what you're, because everybody has their own definition of sacred and sisterhood, and so I desire to share your meaning with our listeners. And then office hours, like office hours are the last Monday of every month that you're going to open up to the public, or you're not.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep with the sisterhood, the actual women that are, you know, clients of mine, like you and some of my one-on-ones that have been in the groups. I'm going to keep that just with us. What I am going to do is offer, I've had so many people that want to still work with me, but they don't have the funds yet to be able to invest in the sisterhood or the one-on-one. So I do offer scholarships, as you know, to the sisterhood. But I can't do it for everybody, you know, in that space. So what I've realized, there's been so much interest in having a lower tier way to work with me. And so this is a way within this collective. And I'll go a little more high level. I mean, we won't go as deep like we did last night, but we're still going to be talking about, you know, all the things. And so it allows more people to come in, and they also are going to get a meditation every month. They're going to get a live call like we did last night. And so you can come in, right? Because you're already working with me, but these are women that could come in that could also have access to me, that really want to see, you know, how can I show up more in my feminine or my masculine? How can we talk about dating? Can we talk about dating my husband? There were several women last night, without going into detail for you know, to protect them, is several women that have worked with me have reconciled with their partners or their husband. And so there's a process for that. And so we talk about all the things. So it's a way that they get like an office hour, but to people that aren't already in relationship with me, although you can definitely come.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the requirements with sisterhood is this book that I finally got. I love it so far.
I'll link it. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah, she's a friend of mine, and it's good stuff. So I'll link that here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I have a link that gives everybody a discount. So let me make sure that I put that in the comments.
Yeah, because even just the chapters alone are like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great reference book.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is all the things. I mean, there's so much there that, I mean, life is so full of lessons and love, and some people don't even want to acknowledge them. But, people like us and everybody that's on your page, anybody that's in positive impact, it's like, how can I use this and flip it around?
Yeah.
For the positive, but not spiritual bypass. So we forget that, there's some uncomfortable feelings too. And I find that a lot with people that are, want to live in this awakened space, that they forget that it's okay to actually feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. So go there a little, because basically the sisterhood, the sacred sisterhood, is you coaching people and teaching women and men how to embody life,
Mhm.
embody, and maybe share your definition of embodiment,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah. Sure, sure, sure. I mean, embodiment for me, and what I've learned, from David and from John, is that it's actually taking on an experience, and instead of observing the experience, getting it in your body. So you literally live it from the inside out. And so there's been, in fact, I was just reading, someone wrote an article about the way I coach, and she's studying, leadership, and she's studying coaching, and she's studying mentors and the difference between being a mentor and a leader and a coach. And she was fascinated by, and she's a friend of mine. She actually bought my house on the
oh
water.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was really cool friendship. But she interviewed me about how, this embodiment space, because if it gets in your body, you're more apt to retain it. And so that's why it's like the repetition is the mother of skill, right? So you see Michael Jordan, who how many free throws did he do before he's mastering it? So how many times do you need to embody, your masculine or your feminine, or your milkmaiden, for example, or your boss babe, and you literally like put it in your body of she who must be. And so you do it over and over again. And so even though you may not believe it yet, your brain's going, but you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like your feelings around it, but you are. And so it's just eventually there becomes a connection there. So to me, embodiment is different than what's in the dictionary based on my teachers. It really is about taking life's experiences and put them in your body. An example would be, for me, is, John and I had a lot of fun, my husband, embodying this whole like milfy energy, like this milfy. And
and
yeah,
Milky, wait, what's Milky? What I think it is.
it is what you think it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
But yes, it is. For the paying audience, we won't even say it out loud. But yeah, milfy energy, where we wanted to adopt, and we had just gotten married a few years ago, and I all of a sudden was feeling trapped in this marriage because I've been single for so long. And as much as I wanted to be married, I was like, oh my God, when I'm married, like forever, like I know this is the one. There's not going to be another behind him. Like this is it. And so instead of making me wrong for that, I actually decided to embody, it was resentful MILF. That was it. It was resentful MILF. So my teachers had me acting out, which you'll experience this in the sisterhood, acting out what it felt like to, honey, you can come in, acting out what it felt like to be married to this beautiful man who's amazing and also be resentful as hell. So I had to do sacred theater and act out making sandwiches, like pretending like I put razor blades in them, like stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, really? I'm married for the rest of my life to you? I'll show you arsenic, arsenic, arsenic. Now I didn't put that on it, but because I used the video, right? And then I used it with my group. They witnessed me in that space. It made it real. And so instead of making me wrong and shame, blame, or guilt or whatever, it was just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm married and I really don't want to be married. And I love him and I don't want to be married. And so when you actually accept that you've got these opposing emotions versus trying to go, oh, but I shouldn't feel this way because he's such a great man and you've been working so hard, Sandy, oh, golly gee, Sandy. It's like, no, I'm like resentful MILF, like, period. Like, it's like, And it was amazing because it got in my, I was able to actually, from that place, if you really understand, epi-energetics, you understand Donnie Epstein's work, when you become aware and then you acknowledge and then you accept it, from that space, I was able to explore so much more of an expanded way to love my husband, love myself. It shows some of my blind spots. I brought my husband into it, so he knows too. So we've acted out some crazy things in the kitchen, especially, which can or cannot lead to sex. It doesn't have to always be, about the sex part, but it really allowed us to really acknowledge that, yeah, I love being married, and sometimes I don't, and that's okay. And so there's actually a meditation that I do to help.
And it helped you move through it and move past it
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
you can move on to it and enjoy it, and you're not bearing it down and it doesn't come out somewhere else. Like the issue is never the issue. So
Jaw pain. I mean, I have a client now who's we're working with this now with her, and it just, she had been shamed and made wrong for actually, honestly being, just for actually even questioning it. It wasn't that she questioned her husband, she questioned herself. And so that's where anxiety comes from, when we're trying to control
yeah.
our environment or control our emotions. Our emotions are going to come. It's the thoughts behind the emotions that really mess us up. And that's really key to understand. So, yeah,
So beautifully put.
I know. All right, my
Well,
love. It's
I'm
been
very
great.
excited about all of this, the sisterhood and the coaching, and I love it. And
Well, you've really shown up. You're showing up, and you're showing up, and it's not comfortable, especially because we're friends too. So when I'm going like Charity, and I'm like, it's so good, but it's all in love.
and now I know it starts at 8, not 8:30. I don't know why I thought it was 8:30. So
And and honestly, I was just in my zone, and I just hit, come in. And normally, if you're more than at 8:05, keep done, and nobody gets in. So I was like, ding. So yeah,
thanks
so
for letting me come in
I,
late. That won't happen again.
yeah, I got it. Well, I love you. I love you tons. I'll talk to you off the grid.
Yeah, and tell Cameron to feel better.
I
And
will.
we love you all. If anybody has any questions anytime, always put them here, and we'll see you next week at 11 or 10. We're 10 o'clock. Are we 10 o'clock?
For
Every
10, 10
Tuesday.
Eastern. Yep.
10:10.
All right. I love you, baby. 10, 10.
Love you. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.